The fishing tournament was starting. The prize was 10 grand. Paul and Dwayne were excited. Last year they weren't prepared, but this year they were ready. They had spent all year planning on their sure victory. "Paul, we got to get this, or it'll all be to waste," Dwayne said. Paul didn't reply and was staring into the distance with fire in his eyes. Dwayne turned to see their rivals, Brad and Billy Smith. The twins were hated by everyone. They had won 7 tournaments in a row just this year, and even though the judges paid close attention to them, they had no evidence of any cheating or foul play. Paul and Dwayne both knew this was baloney. "Those twins are cheaters," Paul cursed. Dwayne turned to him, holding his shoulders. "We'll get them, don't worry." The judges beckoned everyone to the dock where they would set off on the lake. There were 20 teams all ready to win. The head judge announced, "All anglers, please go to the cabin to register before boarding your boats. All anglers will set out at exactly 7:30 a.m. and be back here at 5 p.m. This gives you ample time to fish. The species is bass, and the total weight at the end of 2 days will decide the winner. A dead fish is not eligible for weigh-in." The participants all nodded and went to register. They now stood on their boats. The signal went, and all the anglers moved out. Dwayne and Paul had both grown up on this lake and slowly cruised along, avoiding the other boats. The Smith twins zoomed past them in their luxury boat, bought with their winnings from other competitions. Paul swore under his breath. Paul and Dwayne were now at their favorite spot, a shady area under the towering trees. They chose their favorite lures and began casting. The twins could be heard cheering in the distance. Their obnoxious behavior angered the two friends, but they used this to fuel their resolve. Dwayne had a catch, and he pulled up, setting the hook perfectly, and in under a minute he had the fish in the boat. A huge bass. They weighed it and put it in the live well, a good catch to start the day. The next bite came, and the next, and slowly but surely they caught a few decent fish over the next hour. When they inadvertently foul-hooked a trophy bass, they noticed there was something very strange. Dwayne pulled the fish to the top of the water, only to discover it was on a stringer. There were 4 more trophy bass on the same stringer, which was held in place by a rope and a small anchor. "What the world?" Paul muttered. Both men were shocked. Someone was cheating by staging fish under the water. "Should we tell the judges?" Paul asked. Dwayne paused and said, "I have a better idea," his mind scheming up a plan to out the Smith brothers and stop their cheating once and for all. Paul released the fish, and the two set off slowly to avoid making noise. They crept up on the twins' boat and began fishing just out of view. However, they could still see the twins through the branches of a tree. They were completely hidden, and Paul began to record the twins. Eventually, the twins pulled up a pen containing 5 trophy bass. They cheered and started putting them away. Dwayne was catching fish at the time, and Paul shared the video. Both grinned at each other from ear to ear. They had clear, solid proof of the twins' cheating. Now, all they needed was to get this to the judge. The pair kept on fishing and casually passed the twins, who jeered at them as they cruised along. The two simply kept a straight face and returned to the dock. They got off their boat and immediately headed to the judge's table. The other judges were away watching the different participants to make sure there wasn't any cheating. The head judge sat at the table, and when the duo walked towards him, he greeted them with a warm smile. Paul handed him the phone where the video played, and the judge was shocked. He held the phone for a few seconds and handed it back. He now turned to the 2 men smiling, and he said slyly, "What was it you wanted to show me?" "All I see are pictures of your beautiful catches." Paul and Dwayne were shocked, and Paul went back to the video, but it was gone. "What the world?" Paul muttered. Dwayne looked over and he saw the video was gone and realized the judge was corrupt. Of course the twins were relaxed. They had someone covering their back. Paul and Duane were infuriated and stared daggers into the judge, who kept the act up smiling. The judge said coldly, "If you have nothing to show me, then hurry up. You don't want to be beaten, do you?" Duane and Paul walked away, each step they took heavy with distaste. "I have a copy," Duane whispered to Paul. "The one you sent me is still on my phone, so we have to plan how we should do this properly." Paul and Duane heard the judge on the phone presumably telling the twins what had happened. They returned to their boat and left. There was only 1 hour remaining, and some of the others had already returned. Duane racked his brain for ideas and realized the simplest one. "We can't guarantee that all the judges aren't corrupt, so we can't risk showing them the evidence we have. We should just call the police," Duane said. Paul looked puzzled. "The police won't come out for a fishing tournament." Duane replied, "That's the neat part. We both know the twins have anger problems. We should just wind them up and wait for the charge to make itself," Duane added with a wink. The day had ended, and Duane and Paul had caught a decent amount of fish, but the second the Smith brothers came to the stage, they carried 5 trophy bass. Paul scoffed, and Brad, the bigger of the twins, turned to him in anger. "What are you laughing at? You don't have half the weight we caught." Paul egged him on. "At least my fish were caught properly, and I didn't need to cheat." He was cut off by the hard hand of Brad punching him in the mouth. Just before swinging again, Brad stopped and said, "Don't do that again." Paul winced, and Duane gave him a thumbs up, signaling the cops were on the way. Paul laughed in between rubbing his cheek in pain. Brad had messed up, and his brother realized it. "You idiot," he shouted. The judges were silent, and the head judge quickly decided to start the weigh-in so he could get it over and done with before the cops arrived. The other competitors all rallied behind Duane and Paul. "Cheaters, cheaters, cheaters," they chanted. Brad and his brother Billy withdrew, running to the car to escape the situation. But they didn't get far. The cops stopped them, arresting the 2 of them. The judges had to disqualify the twins, and Paul and Duane were victorious. They held their trophy proud, and the taste of victory was sweet. The head judge stared at them in anger, but there was nothing he could do. After an investigation, the twins lost everything after losing multiple court battles against other fishing competitions, and the head judge who helped them went away for a long time alongside the cheating duo. Paul and Duane went on vacation and spent their winnings with their families.